nosy, 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 have nosy, without z, nosy, 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 my without nosy, 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 old z, nosy, nosy, have z, nosy, z, z, Gen Z, L, Z, have Z, 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 L, Z, nosy, 4 Z, nosy, Z, nose, have Z, Z, my, Z, nosy, Z, nosy, nosy, Z11, Z11, Z5, Zanzibar to Tarkin, gift, Zabir, Zaboom, Zabriskin, Zabir, Zach, Zach, Zach Snacks, Zazzia, Zapparoon, Zapparoony, Zaffle Sun, Zag, 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 Zagreus, tell Zagreus, Zagreus, and Zagreus. Zagreus, 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 Miss Zagreus, now Zagreus, and Zobert, or Zale, that was Zale. Zalser, Zamar, Zamazenta, Zamazenta, Pokemon, Zamazenta, Encinera, and Zanshu, named Zane, Zane, Zach, Eat Zangshi, Zangyo, Luzan, Zant, Encinera, Zanvid, Zap. Zap, don't zap, 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 old Zapparoo, Zapparoony, old Zappola, zap, getting zapped, I'm zapping, the zapping, and zap, my Zappa, my Zappa, little Zappo, a little Zappo, Zap, absolutely Zap. Zarquil, Zarzos, David Zaslav, come on, Zassy, Zatu, was it? Zaz, Z-Ball, Z-Bike Pro, Z-Dark, ZDR, old ZDR, on ZDR, Zealot, the Zebra, Zekra, Self-Zeder, Zeke, Zekeepa, okay, Zelda, friend Zelda, Queen Zelda, to Zelda, bye Zelda, Emily Zelda, Zelda, from Zelda, Zelda in Zelda in Zelda the Zelda very Zelda. It's just the Zelda. Princess Zelda. Yeah, Zelda of Zelda. Higher Zelda. Sorry, Zelda! Higher Zelda! Zelda! Go Zelda! Okay, Zelda! Says Zelda! Put Zelda, Princess Zelda, Zelda, these Zelda, for Zelda, very Zelda, between Zelda, called Zelda, or Zelda, easy Zelda, Zelda's, dang, Zelda's, so Zelda's, for Zelda's, but Zelda's one Zelda's energy. Zelda, Zim, Zenith, Zenith, Zeo, Zeon, Zepar, Circle, Zemus, there are Zero. 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 That's a. And that's zero. Zero. X. Zero. 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 Horizon. Zero. Scene. Zero. 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 Definitely zero. Zero. 1 0 0 0 0 0 0. Big 0 0 0 0.
Light. Way I hear it, so did you.
Well, sun priests,
Zero. Zero and zero and zero 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 two zero 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 absolutely zero 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 almost a zero zero of zero zero absolutely zero 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 extra zero 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 and zero zero
area 0.
zero 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 and zero zero and zero zero additional zero absolutely zero 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 I'm in zero at zero just zero 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 at zero 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 M zero 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 I'm in zero 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 at zero 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 by zero by zero 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 there's to absolutely zero 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 absolutely zero 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 and zero zero maybe zero 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 and zero absolutely zero 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 boy official zero boy official zero or zero zero 1 3 0 triple zero zesty little zesty zesty more Zeus 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 oh Zeus oh Zeus 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 and Zeus 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 and Zeus Zeus or Zeus oh Zeus Zeus Zeus
It isn't one that I appreciate.
Sorry, Zeus. Sorry, Zeus. 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 And Zeus from Zeus. Zeus. Thanks, Zeus. Sorry, Zeus. 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 Or Zeus. The Zeus. The Zeus. The Zeus. The Zeus. Zeus. Keep Zeus. Two Zeuses. Sexto. Zexto. 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 That's Zexto. Zexto. Sexto. Zexto. Scoop. Scoop. Zhao. Zhao. Zherp. Zib, Dibby, the Zigger, Abs, Ziggy, of Ziggy, by Zigzag, Zigzagoo, Kiss Zigzagoo, Zigzagoo, Kiss Zigzagoon, Zigzagoon, Zigzagoo, Zilchound, Zimlarog, Zincat, Zine, Zing, Zinside, let's, order zip, these, zip, oh, zipline, little zipline.
Cold metal to hear better.
A zipper? Zip the zip it. Zippo. Zap.
Soft zero.
Zip.
Zithraldor. Gerb.
Gerbness.
Zitping. Zivano. Keepa. Zkeepa. The Zia. The Zia. That Zia. Z-locking. Sniper. Zodiac.
Do you still see it?
Zodiac. My Zodiac. Zotrium. Zoe. Zoe. Horizocta. Zalin. Zalsim. Zombie. Oh, something. A zombie. 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 A zombie. Little zombie. A zombie. 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 A zombie. Blue zombie. 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 A zombie. Zombie. A zombie. A zombie. A zombie. 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 Or zombie. A zombie. One zombie. 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 Maybe zombie. 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 Of zombie. 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 The zombie. 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 Zombie lime. Fight zombie. The zombie. Zombies. Little zombie. 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 Zombies. Zombies. The zombie. Zombies. The zombie. Zombie. More zombies. Some zombies. Some zombies. More zombies. More zombies. Zombies. My zombies. Fuck zombies. The zombies. Into zombies. Zombie. 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 Zombies. The zombie. My zombie. The zombie. The zombie. The zombie. Zombies. Send in zombie. Zombie. The zombie. Got a lot of zombies. More zombies. There's a bunch of zombies. The zombie. Bunch of zombies. Got zombies. More zombies. More zombies. The zombies. These zombies. Zombies. These zombies. Or I need more zombies. More zombie. More zombified. Come zombified. Zombie. Zomble. And zomnom. A zone. A zona. 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 Have a zona. 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 More zona. Bring zona. Zona. Some zona. Good zona. Zona. Ooh, Zondel. Zondel. Zondu. Zondu. Signed zone. That's zone. Signed zone. Time zone. Two zone. Bike zone. Danger zone. This zone. Murder zone. Murder zone. Murder zone. New zone. Correct zone. Zone. Totally zone. Murder zone. Murder zone. Murder zone. Head zone. Fish zone. Prison zone. Special zone. Purple zone. Dangerous zone. This zone. This zone. Secret zone. Dangerous zone. Dangerous zone. This zone. This zone. Good zone. Little zone. Little zone. Prison zone. Zone. Skeleton zone. Damage zone. Zone. Special zone. Secret zone. Full zone. Travel zone. Fast zone. Purple zone. Danger zone. Bird zone. Visit zone. This zone. App zone. App zone. The zone. Hide zone. This zone. Grit zone. Grit zone. Fire zone. Hole zone. Your zone. That's secret zone. Zone. Head zone. Danger zone. There's a zone. Apple zone. Safe zone. That zone. Grit zone. Two zone. Two zone. Zone. Escape zone. Bird zone. Grit zone. Zone. Avoid invaders. Little zone. That zone. Zone. Special zone. Zone. Quantum zone. 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 Just go to zone. Oh. Zone. From zone. Game zone. Team zone. Base zone. Zone. Secret zone. Quick zone. The zone. The zone. Secret zone. Secret zone. This zone. Secret zone. New zone. Station zone. Final zone. Game zone. That zone. Different zone. New zone. New zone. This zone. Death zone. This zone. Ground. Zone. Specific zone. Secret zone. Next zone. Friend zone. Little zone. Little zone. Boom zone. This zone. Destruction zone. Party zone. Super zone. Game zone. This zone. Fleet zone. This zone. Volcano zone. Zone. This zone. Out zone. Act zone. This zone. My zone. My zone. Danger zone. 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 Special zone. Danger zone. Other zone. This zone. EP zone. Get zone. New zone. Zone. Me zone. In the zone. Zone. Me zone. Full zone. Time zone. Secret zone. App zone. Like zone. 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 This zone. Secret zone. Warp zone. Secret zone. Puzzle zone. Danger zone. 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 Quantum zone. Story zone. The zone. This zone. The zone. My zone. In the challenge. Zone. The zone. Safe zone. Code zone. That zone. This zone. This zone. X zone. The zone. Whole zone. Secret zone. Friend zone. Your zone. Your zone. Zone. Hate zone. Story zone. Little zone. Lock zone. Lock zone. Lock zone. Story zone. My zone. My zone. Fire zone. Secret zone. Play zone. Pop zone. The zone. S zone. S zone. S zone. Zone. Your zone. New zone. Your zone. The zone. Pool zone. Secret zone. Zone. Same zone. Big zone. This zone. Special zone. Special zone. That zone. New zone. The zone. Little zone. New zone. Much zone. The zone. Secret zone. Secret zone. Add zone. Glory zone. Horse zone. Style zone. Egg zone. Spicy zone. Bay zone. Spicy zone. Spicy zone. Me zone. Spicy zone. Me zone. Me zone. The zone. Add zone. New zone. Time zone. Time zone. Dash zone. Explosion zone. Explosion zone. Zone. Correct zone. Correct zone. This zone. Zone. The zone. This zone. Hot zone. Pacific. Zone. Team. Zone. Zone. This is zone. Scary zone. There's a secret zone. Dodge zone. Battle zone. Little zone. New zone. Next zone. Next zone. Dark zone. Zone. Bad zone. Bad zone. Bad zone. 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 Wave zone. Whole zone. Zone. Different zone. Boss zone. Danger zone. Danger zone. Vibration zone. Bad zone. Little zone. Little zone. Zone. This zone. This zone. Specific zone. This zone. End zone. Zone. Water zone. Down zone. Down zone. Death zone. Other. Zone. 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 Special zone. Little zone. Patient zone. 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 This zone. Specific zone. Zone. Progress zone. Specific zone. Tense zone. Zone. Tense zone. Time zone. Crit zone. Big zone. Zone. That zone. Other zone. Big zone. Little zone. Full zone. Special zone. That zone. Specific zone. Special zone. Third zone. Pacific zone. Whole zone. Better zone. Home zone. First zone. Time zone. Into the zone. Game zone. Full zone. Pacific zone. Full zone. Turtle zone. Other zone. X zone. Zone. Add zone. Other zone. Control zone. Ori zone. Ori zone. Ori zone. Gum zone. Gum zone. I zone. This zone. This zone. Next zone. This zone. Level zone. This zone. This zone. This zone. This zone. Zone. Please zone. Dump zone. Bad zone. Good zone. Pickle zone. Secret zone. 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 Actual zone. Egg zone. Head zone. Zone. Moon zone. Patient zone. Secret zone. Zone. Gaming zone. Secret zone. Little zone. Bone zone. I zone zone. Down zone. Jervis zone. Z zone. Good zone. Zone. Fire zone. Blue zone. Secret zone. In the voice zone. Tube zone. New zone. New zone. New zone. Safe zone. My zone. The zone. My zone. My zone. Danger zone. Danger zone. Danger zone. Right zone. Fort zone. Core 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 zone. Zone. My zone. Good zone. Bad zone. Some zone. My zone. My zone. My zone. Bad zone. My sorry zone. This zone. App zone. Hot zone. Back zone. Zone. Z zone. X zone. In this zone. Zone. The zone. Hit zone. Add zone. X zone. Picking zone. Sleep zone. Good zone. Pacific zone. Right zone. Zone. Little zone. Zone. One zone. New zone. This zone. Little zone. Secret zone. This zone. 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 Danger zone. Secret zone. Green zone. This zone. That zone. Zone. Fight zone. Out zone. Zone. Little zone. Boss zone. Tourist zone. Safe zone. Key zone. Kin zone. Missile zone. Little zone. Wild zone. Pacific zone. The zone. Little zone. Teen zone. Little zone. The zone. That's next different zone. First zone. Third zone. Women zone. The zone. The zone. Water zone. Favorite zone. Secret zone. Boss zone. Little zones. In this zone. Up zone. Pacific zone. Zone. The zone. Right zone. Secret zone. Secret zone. The zone. Dark zone. Sing zone. Good zone. Little zone. Secret zone. Danger zone. Danger zone. That zone. For zone. Same zone. The zone. Safe zone. This zone. The zone. The zone. The zone. Zone. Purple zone. Hail zone. Secret zone. Pacific zone. Fine zone. Dangerous zone. Other zone. Shot zone. Danger zone. Scary zone. Fight zone. Fight zone. Pacific zone. My zone. My zone. My zone. Fight zone. Zone. Summer zone. Games. Pacific zone. Zone. X zone. X zone. This zone. Zone. This zone. The zone. Danger zone. Engine zone. Game zone. Water zone. Water zone. Open. Zone. Key zone. This zone. 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 This zone. X zone. Zone. Porch zone. One zone. Little zone. Zone. That's a zone. Zone. Right zone. Nice zone. Back zone. West zone. Zone. Feed zone. 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 Little zone. Nose. Final zone. Pacific zone. Full zone. Fight zone. Fight zone. Dress zone. Dress zone. Dress zone. Name zone. Little zone. Main zone. 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 Five zone. Five zone. Little zone. Five zone. Crit zone. Little zone. Danger zone. Danger zone. Bad zone. Danger zone. Little zone. Pacific zone. Little zone. Fight zone. Little zone. Little zone. Little zone. Secret zone. Zone. This zone. Little zone. Danger zone. X zone. Dress zone. Triple zone. Hurt zone. Boss zone. There's zone. Five zone. Triple zone. Danger zone. Zone. Save zone. Dangerous zone. This zone. That zone. Dangerous zone. Secret zone. Pacific zone. Add zone. Type zone. Hider zone. Hider zone. His zone. His zone. 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 Locked zone. Zone. The zone. Safe zone. Life zone. Another zone. Just zone. This zone. Final zone. Little zone. The zone. Enter zone. Zone. K zone. Challenge zone. Safe zone. Zone. Level. Zone. This is my zone. My zone. My zone. Tomato zone. Tomato zone. Tomato zone. This zone. Right zone. Secret zone. Danger zone. Dog zone. Hater zone. Mission zone. Secret zone. Zone. Pink zone. Pink zone. Mountain zone. That zone. Danger zone. Zone. Other zone. Zone. Secret zone. Secret zone. Stairs zone. This zone. This zone. Little zone. Listen zone. 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 Secret zone. Dangerous zone. Zone. Or zone. Secret zone. The final nation zone. The zone. The zone. Stern zone. That zone. Little zone. Timing zone. Correct zone. The next zone. Danger zone. Ice zone. Water zone. There's zone. There's the zone. Guy zone. Guy zone. Pacific zone. In zone. Zone. Cat zone. Cat zone. App zone. Scary zone. Light zone. Light zone. Zone. Floor zone. L zone. L zone. One side. Light zone. Little zone. Good zone. Little zone. Danger zone. M zone. M zone. This zone. Good zone. This zone. Last zone. This zone. M zone. This zone. Deep zone. Main zone. Dungeon zone. Dungeon zone. Danger zone. Dangerous zone. Danger zone. Into the this zone. Safe zone. Middle zone. Nail zone. Heart zone. The zone. Pain zone. Pain zone. Hit zone. Good zone. Which new zone? Challenge zone. Safe zone. 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 No zone. 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 C zone. Good zones. Feature separate zones. Those zones. Those zones. Tank zones. Zones. Hot zones. Right zone. Other zone. Zone. Secret zones. Secret zones. Little zone. Cool zone. Time zone. King zones. Further zone. Further zone. For time zones. Little zones. Time zone. Reach zones. Zones. Time zone. Secret zone. Print zone. Little zones. Zones. Print zone. Little zones. Warp zones. Spicy zones. Zones. Print. Zones. Hitting zones. Time zone. Spicy zones. Spicy zones. Zone. Old zones. Old zones. Punch zones. Other zones. Spicy zones. Spicy zones. 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 Service zones. Zones. The zones. 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 Spray zone. Hello zones. Secret zone. Zone. Water zones. Water zone. Two zones. Four zones. Zone. 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 Up. Zone. The zone is zonai. 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 Zubat. Zubat. Zudo. Zookeeper. Zuli. Zuli. Zoom. To zoom. I can just super zoom. Zoom. I think you got a quick zoom. 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 Easily zoom. Little zoom and zoom. I gotta zoom. 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 Over zoom. On zoom. Zoom. I zoom. 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 On zoom. Can't zoom. 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 Gotta zoom it. Zoom. 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 Actually zoom. On zoom. Zoom. Sir. Zoom. 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 It's zoom. 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 Visual zoom. 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 I zoom. 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 Could zoom. On zoom. I zoom. I zoom. I zoom. A zoom. 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 You zoom boom two. Zoom boom two. You zoom boom two. Zoom two. Zoom. You zoom. Color zoomed. You zoom. You zoomed. A zoomer. Zoomer. A zoomer. 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 The zoomer. Cool zoomer. At zoomers and zoomer. Zoomer. Oh zoomers. Oh zoomers. Hey zoomers. Hey zoomers. Little zooming. Zooming. Zoom. Zooming. Zooming. Zoom. Zoom. You're zooming. Guys zoom. I'm zooming. You're zoom. You're zooming. And zoom. You're zooming. You're zooming. You're zooming. Zoom. You're zooming. Zoom. Keep zooming. Just zoom. You're zooming. I'm zooming. Zoom myself. Zoom. Zoom. I'm zooming. I'm zooming. Just zoom. Just zoom. Absolutely zooming. Really zoom. Absolutely zoom. Zoom. Crash zoom. Day zooms. Zoop. 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 De zoop. 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 Oh zoop. 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 A zoop. Oh zoop. Oh. That's zoot. Fucking zoot is zooted. Zoot. Zoot. Zora. This is Zora's 2, Zora's Zorgun. The Zorgun. Zoro. The Zorum Zoso. From Zoso. The Zoku Zot. Zot. Oh, Zot. Beam Zot of Zot. Zot. Zowie. Zowie. Zoso. ZR. And ZR. Plus Z. ZR. No, Z target. Z target. Z target. Z target. Target. Z target. Z target. Z target. Z target. Target. Z target. Z target. Z target. Target. Z target. Z target. 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 Z 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 targeted. Z targeting. 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 No Z targeting. 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 Zubir or Zubir. Zubir 2. Zubir and Zubir. Zubir of Zubiri. So Zubiri. Zubir for Zubir. Zubir accused Zubir because Zubir Zubiri. Because Zubiri for Zubiri. Zubir for Zubiri caved. Zubiri cares. Your zucchinis of zucchinis. Zuckerberg. Zudorin. Zuko. And Zuko. Serve Zuko. It's Zuko. Give Zuko. Zuko. Mazula. Zulium, Zoom, Incinera, Zon, Zusi, Zusudra, Sitar.
Sutek.